OT.
Outnumbered overtime, OT. I mean, we got to slow it down.
Baby.
This news cycle is ferocious.
Yeah.
I mean, wow. We're sliding in. We're coming out of commercial breaks to Sandra, and I mean, we're sliding in news. We just can't get enough news. We got to cut through the commercials to
Last
get news.
night I was relaxing in bed. It was like 11. I was about to go to sleep. Like watched a little bit of The Real Housewives. Switched over the news.
Ooh, which city do you like?
I like all of them, but I was watching Beverly Hills, and I was catching up on Atlanta. But I was flipping over, turned on the news. This breaks, and it was like an adrenaline jolt. I was like, what? What's happening? What's going on? This news cycle. Interrupting my broadcast time.
So Harris mentioned it at the top of the broadcast hour, which this is why I'm festooned in purple today, was this huge basketball win for Northwestern, and I won't bore you all with the details, but it was epic in the history of our program.
It was.
I was high as a kite. I was so excited. Then all the Sessions stuff is happening, and I'm like, nope, you're not bringing me down, news cycle. I am focusing on basketball tonight. I will do my reading in the morning.
Wildcats have you wearing your purple today.
So excited.
This is the first time for them, right?
It's not official. It's not official yet, but it does look like we'll be dancing for the first time
Did they win or not?
Ever. Well, the committee makes a decision next Sunday.
Do I need to call somebody who knows
Please.
somebody?
I would love to lock it down, but I think it's happening.
Well, if only I had that power. And somehow or another, your enthusiasm has also Megan wearing purple.
Well, I was very excited about the game. No,
she was watching Housewives. You were watching Housewives.
He had you, though. You were looking very optimistic.
No,
Wow.
I just like Rachel. I just support Arizona teams because she's from Arizona as well.
I support the Packers, too. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, you got to be loyal to
That's so
Wisconsin.
weird, because I'm a cheesehead.
I know. Are you not a Packer fan?
I'm a cheesehead,
yeah.
yeah. Although when I lived in Minnesota, I had to keep that on the down low.
You root for the Badgers as well?
I'm not very sporty. The Packers are about as much as I
Not very sporty, says a mom of 8 children who all play something.
Sandra, what's happening on the...
Yeah, I'm checking out the Facebook Live, still waiting for it to come up here. So I'm logging on to Outnumbered Overtime. Send us your thoughts on the show. Obviously, a lot of this has been Jeff Sessions heavy. As far as my Twitter feed says, most on the right think this is a witch hunt by Democrats.
Totally
they're dominating the news cycle with this. And look, we don't have any evidence or proof of anything yet.
Right.
But
except, so here's
the
the thing.
optics of it are bad. Obviously.
I obviously came right out of the gate saying there appears to be no evidence that would justify these calls for resignation and criminal investigations and all of that. I think they're vastly overstepping, and it is political. That being said, you cannot deny the fact that you can argue the contacts, which I did, but Jeff Sessions, under oath, said in a broad way that he had no contacts with the Russians, and then it turned out that he did. Now, those could have been totally legit, innocent, above-board contacts, and he could have been thinking in his mind that he was talking about the campaign contacts, which is what the questioning was all about. That's all fair, and I will defend him on that. But there is something of a disconnect between what he said and what then subsequently came out.
Rachel
disagrees. How can you dispute that?
I'm just saying, I know you're laying it out very logically, but I think if you just kind of look at this from a political, listen, all things come down to politics in this, in Washington, D.C. Politics is a team sport. There's no evidence yet of anything. The Democrats, they stick together. When all those incidents that you brought up before, whether it was Fast and Furious, the IRS...
All the Holder stuff, yeah.
They never, I mean, the only reason, what was the last DOJ? Why my mind's not breaking?
Lynch.
The only reason Lynch recused herself because she was actually caught on film, in the plane with Bill Clinton. I'm not saying, I don't think he did anything wrong. I get that it, optics-wise, may not look great, but right now there's no reason for Republicans to start jumping on this and feeding this story, and I think anybody on the Republican side that's helping this should be embarrassed.
So do you mean just Republicans shouldn't talk about it?
Not until any evidence comes out. Stop feeding the story.
There is
here's
some
what
evidence.
I found interesting. The big question is there evidence, A, that Sessions had anything to do with Russia and talked about the campaign to Russian officials when he had those 2 meetings?
No, right? We don't have that evidence at all.
Okay, well, wait. The other question is, was there any sort of impropriety in terms of connection between Russian officials and the campaign in general? We got one. No, there was no evidence of this from the Intel chair, Nunes. And then we got, well, I can't talk about specifics from Schiff, which in my book is not a yes.
Right.
So where is the evidence?
Well,
if one side is looking if Republicans are looking for whistleblowers and evidence, and Democrats say we can't talk about the evidence, but we want an independent counsel, what does that tell you?
Well,
it smells
tells
of
us,
politics until we
course.
have the facts.
And you remember the
no one
smoking
knows.
gun from the dirty dossier? I mean, that was supposed to be the big Russia.
Nobody.
I want to read this tweet,
let me
though.
just say something I think is significant, though, and I agree with Rachel and Guy on two separate issues that we don't know what we don't know. This could be nothing. This could be something significant. We definitely don't have enough evidence now to have this witch hunt that's going after him. I will say, I had wished that President Trump wouldn't say such nice things about Vladimir Putin for as long as he had, because it just gives ammo to the left. I thought it was politically stupid from day one. I continue to think politically stupid. I have no idea. I have no idea why anyone would make a moral equivalency to being an American to being a Russian, and I don't need to educate our wonderful viewers online. They're all smart enough to know the difference. So that's why people get so freaked out about it, because they're like, our own president doesn't seem to think there's any problem with, you know, having involvement with murderous KGB dictators. Neither did President Obama, neither did President Bush. It's all a problem. Look at what's happened globally. But that's why it's giving ammo to the left.
So we've got about 11,000 people on our live chat right now. This is a hot topic. I know you're watching Facebook. On my Twitter
people going
feed,
crazy?
Leslie
I just got off outnumbered.
This session's issue is Democrats' payback for the Hillary Clinton email investigation.
That could be
That's
true.
Leslie Sue.
And can I just say, down to the fundamentals of this whole story, the whole question that we're trying to get at is, was there improper coordination or collusion between Trump world and the Russians? Based on everything that we know, the answer to that question is no. Even the New York Times and CNN big bombshell stories about, oh my gosh, these people who we can't name or characterize where they were in Trump world, they have these constant contacts. But in those stories themselves, they said no evidence of improper conduct or collusion. And I have seen nothing subsequently that changes that baseline fact. And that goes to Jeff Sessions as well.
Right, but also the other point is, okay, the Russians meddle in all elections. I mean, I think we just assume that. Did their meddling in this election actually lead to Donald Trump winning? There's no evidence of that. So I don't know why we're
Hillary
having
lost
this discussion.
Hillary lost because of Hillary Clinton, right? And the economy
she lost because people in the Midwest thought
they don't trust her and all that stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah, it was the Russians. They didn't tamper with the votes, which is something the media and the left has been very sloppy about. They did not tamper with voting, and I don't think again, no evidence that their meddling or attempts to meddle impacted the final outcome of the election.
I don't care about the election. Donald Trump won fair and square. Hillary Clinton didn't even end up in your home state, didn't care to campaign.
Agreed.
She lost on her own fruition. I do care about lifting sanctions in Russia. I do care about normalizing the behavior of a murderous dictator. So they're, again, two completely separate issues. And the problem is, and we talk about this at length, that automatically, if you have...
Sorry.
Thank you, Sandra.
Thank you.
If you have any questions about Russia, automatically you have your tinfoil hat on and you're a raging liberal like Elizabeth Warren. And I hate how politicized this has become, because ultimately it's only hurting the Syrians.
It's so interesting when you say murderous dictator. First of all, I totally agree with what you're saying. But here's more on the hypocrisy of the left. No problem dealing with the murderous
100%.
Dictators in Cuba.
100%.
You know, but now they're all like
100%.
Or Putin with the reset button.
Point 20,000 times. You're right.
No,
But, I
no,
mean, just,
they're a party of absolute hypocrites when it comes to anything foreign policy related, and they do not have any legs to stand on, and all of them can take a seat when they're lecturing any American, especially about Russia.
All right, I'm telling people on Twitter that we're going to include them now, too, because there are so many of them with things to say. Wow. Sandra, anything?
I'm telling you right now that there is a very consistent message coming from our viewers, and that they believe that the media is running with this story, and it's dominating the news, and it's on little facts or evidence of anything yet. And that's really,
no evidence.
That is really
the timing is bizarre. I will say that he had such a high from
Gunawabi. Well, I don't know if that's a first or last name, but we're so glad that you're watching us today. On our live chat says, to be brought down by Al Franken is a new low humiliation, and worse because it's avoidable. And you talk about the avoidability of this, and you go back to the Senate hearings with then candidate nominee Senator Sessions, and it's problematic, complicated what he said in answer to the question, while you were working for the campaign, did you have any contact with the Russians?
Well, and again, I think it's important to go back earlier in that conversation between Franken and Sessions. Franken interrupted the hearing, basically said, hey, there's a breaking story from CNN. He was like reading from his phone.
Oh, wow, that went by fast.
There goes the music. The context here matters about how Franken was framing this line of questioning. It was about
Well, remember
the campaign.
today, I mean, you had the House Intel chief up there saying, I learned about this from news reports from the Washington Post. He didn't name the Washington Post, but we know that that's where the story originated. And then the Wall Street Journal. He learned about it from the newspapers, was what he said. Do you have any evidence, sir? No, and I'm waiting for whistleblowers. Why don't you reporters go out and get some names?
Do your job.
Yeah, I mean, evidence. That's what we need.
Thanks for joining us.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Bye.